Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be ranking the 144 best FPS games of all time. This is going to be a long one, so without further ado, let's get right into the video. So, as you guys can see, we've got a few tiers here. We've got GOAT, the best games of all time, S tier, A tier, B, C, D, and then at the very bottom we've got a little list for games that I just haven't played before. You guys all know how this goes by now. If you haven't already, I've got tons of other tier lists that are already up on the channel, so make sure once you're done with this video to go and check them out. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, first up, Alien Isolation. Not really an FPS, but it's a great horror game. Really love it. If you haven't got it, it's always on sale for really cheap, so I would recommend it. Now we've got our first game that I haven't played, Killzone. I've played some of the other ones as we're about to get to them, but goatee, not goatee, just goat. Yeah, I haven't played it. Killzone 2 is another one that I must admit I haven't played, but Killzone 3 I played, and it was alright. It wasn't bad, wasn't good, it was alright. Killzone Shadowfall, pretty similar, in my opinion. Of all the Killzones that I've played, none of them were that great. It was pretty good. A good PS4 launch title, but just not that great. I have realised that I'm going to very quickly run out of space for this, but we'll get to that when we get there. Next up, Resistance Fall of Man. Must admit, haven't played it, but Resistance 2 I have played. Another PlayStation exclusive shooter that just wasn't that great. The original Crysis, it was alright, it wasn't that great. Very good graphically, but gameplay wise and story wise was pretty poor, so for me it's a C. Next up, Crysis 2, a great FPS game. All the powers and abilities were amazing, the graphics were insane. I couldn't run it on my PC for like 10 years, so thank you Crytek for that. But yeah, it was pretty good. Now, having played Crysis 2, there was a shooter that I was really excited for. And to be honest, it sort of disappointed. It was an alright game, but it just wasn't that great. Crysis 3, the story was worse. The abilities were pretty useless because all I would use the whole game was the crossbow and go invisible. So, it felt like it just sort of leveled down from Crysis 2, and that's why we haven't seen a game in like 8 years now. If they do make another one, I would love that. I presume they must be tinkering with it because they just remade Crysis 1. So Crytek, EA, please make another one and just make it a bit better this time, please. Next up, we have a game that I'm just playing through for the first time, and it's a game that I've wanted to play for a very, very, very long time. And at the minute, I'm enjoying it. I might even do a video on it. Dying Light, a fun little zombie game with Mirror's Edge inspired parkour, done by the people that did the Dead Island games, which are games that I love. A really good game so far. It could end up going even higher or even lower if I'm being honest with you, because I haven't finished it yet. Now, next up, Time Splitters 2. I've heard so many good things about the Time Splitters franchise, but I haven't played it, so it's just going to have to go there for me. Now next up, we have two games that in their retrospective series are alright, but as far as this list goes, definitely worse than Crysis and Killzone 3. We have COD Ghosts and COD Advanced Warfare, arguably the two worst Call of Duty games. If you haven't already checked out my tier list, make sure to go and do that. I'll leave the link in the description down below, but they are definitely way subpar. Now, for a lot of these games, I'm going to be basing it purely on campaign. So for me, COD Infinite Warfare is actually going to go higher, even though on my COD tier list it came below Ghosts and Advanced Warfare. I really love the campaign from this game. Everything else about it brings it down to that C, but the campaign, honestly, would be up in the S tier for me. It is that good. Next up, we have Doom. A great shooter, very old now. Doom 3, I must admit I haven't played, but then we have Doom 2016, I'm pretty sure. I love this game. It's so much fun. The music is great. The gore is amazing. The weapons are really fun. Doom Eternal. I haven't got around to playing it yet, even though it's on Game Pass. Should I play it? Maybe. Next we have Csgo, another game that, if I loved, would easily be up in that GOAT category, but it's just a game that I haven't played that much, if I'm being honest with you, so for me, it's A tier. That's probably one of my more controversial picks. Next up we have Overwatch, which I haven't played, it just doesn't really appeal to me, but yeah. But now we're getting into two very good games in my opinion. Titanfall. It's a B, purely because if you try and go back and play it now, you just physically can't, because it's completely multiplayer based, and because the next game is far, far superior to it, and that game, Titanfall 2. I'm so tempted. I'm this close to putting it in the GOAT tier, but I think it needs a bit more longevity before I do that, and also it just wasn't received that well because it released in between COD and Battlefield. It just didn't perform that well, and to become a GOAT game it has to perform well. It has to have tons of people I know that love playing it. None of my friends play this game. I'm the only one out of my friend group that plays it, and I think that says a lot about it. But the campaign, honestly, amazing. Multiplayer, really fun. They literally improved everything about Titanfall in Titanfall 2. Speaking of sequels to beloved games, Call of Duty 2. Yeah, it's just not that good anymore. It hasn't aged very well, if I'm being honest with you. And another sequel, we have a lot of sequels here, Wolfenstein 2. Oh, I don't know where to put this. It's serviceable, it's fine, it's alright, it's okay, compared to at least the one that came before it, Wolfenstein The New Order. I loved that game. It was so good. Sorry, I've just realised that I wasn't showing you the tier list, but yeah, COD 2 is here, Wolfenstein 2 here, and Wolfenstein The New Order is in the A tier for me, purely because the campaign was great, but once I finished it, there wasn't really much for me to do. I know that's a stupid criticism, but if there was just something else, could have got up into that S tier for me. Next up we have 3 games, Bioshock, Bioshock 2 and Bioshock Infinite. Now that's very controversial. A lot of people preferred the original 2 to Infinite, but Infinite was my introduction to the series, and for me it's definitely an A tier game. Now, Half-Life. I must admit I haven't played, but I have played Half-Life 2, which is a bit strange. Great game, hasn't aged that well, but the physics and the story are very good, so for me it's a B. Battlefield 1942, I had this for free on my Xbox. It was alright, it hasn't aged that well. Bad Company 2 is a great story with a great campaign, great characters, amazing multiplayer. It was one of the first Battlefields to introduce, to an extent, like Levolution and the destructible physics within the world. Truly great game. The Vietnam expansion, I loved it. But now we're getting onto a game that, in my opinion, S tier, Battlefield 3. A lot of people complained that the campaign was subpar, but I loved it personally. It's got a lot of fond memories in my heart. The multiplayer was really fun. Maps like Operation Metro. Oh, I love you, Operation Metro. The reason why they've remade it so many times is because it's so good. Honestly, one of the shooters that I've probably spent the most time playing is Battlefield 3. Now, whoever made this tier list is an absolute G, because they seem to love segueing 3s into 3s and 2s into 2s. COD 3 is funny, isn't it? All of my D tier games at the minute are 3s, and I don't know why. It seems to be whenever they make a 3, it's the worst one. But it's a bit out of order. I'm just going to throw it in here. There's a 3 game that is actually very good. The 3rd installment, Far Cry 3. What hasn't already be said? What hasn't been said? What hasn't already been said about Far Cry 3 that I could say? The co-op wasn't that good. I played the co-op with one of my mates and it wasn't that great. But the campaign is genuinely amazing. And it just takes you back, like Battlefield 3 and Far Cry 3 came out at a time when FPS games were just at their peak, and in my opinion I don't think there's been a Far Cry since or before that was as good as Far Cry 3. Now, going back to the series that we were on about before, Battlefield 4. I really want to put it up there with Battlefield 3, but I think it's just got to sit down in the A tier. It's still a very good shooter, don't get me wrong. If you guys are going, A isn't that good, it's the third tier down. A is still, in my opinion, great tier. But Battlefield 4 just isn't quite as good as Battlefield 3 in my opinion. The multiplayer did take a step up, but the story was forgettable. And for me, it just misses out on the S tier. Only just. Still a great game though. Right guys, I've had to remove myself just so you can see a bit better. Battlefield Hardline for me, forgettable, poor shooter. Battlefield 1, great game, just wasn't for me. And Battlefield 5 sits in the C tier for me. Just a bit under par, not that great, undercooked. The war stories weren't as good as they were in Battlefield 1. Still a great game for some people now after all the updates, but for me, I tried going back into it after all the updates. It just wasn't that good. Battlefield 1 is a very good game. I don't know what it is though, whenever Battlefields aren't set modern day, I just don't find it as fun. COD pulls it off a bit better than Battlefield in my opinion, as we will get to with COD World War II, which I think it's also B tier, but it's slightly better than Battlefield 1. There's just something about Battlefield in modern day that's a lot better. You can do a lot more things with destruction and the physics and the large scale battles that you can't really do in World War 1, which doesn't make sense because you would have thought they would have done D-Day and stuff like that, large scale battles. But for some reason DICE sort of cornered themselves into these odd maps that didn't really seem to fit Battlefield, and that's what confused me most, especially with Battlefield 5. As for World War II, they sort of tried to do their own spin on it with the war mode, but they were trying too hard to emulate Battlefield and it didn't work. So both games, in my opinion, disappointed in terms of the World War aspect. We keep going backwards and forwards at the minute, but we're back to another series now. Far Cry. I must admit I haven't played the first one. I have played Blood Dragon, and honestly it's a great game. It's really short, it's cheap, it's fun. Strangely the second best Far Cry game. Far Cry 4, which was at the time a game I really enjoyed, but as the years have gone on it's been very forgettable. I didn't even play Far Cry Primal, so it just sits there for me in the haven't played section. Far Cry 5. I loved the story, I loved the characters, but the way they set it out was very traditional Ubisoft, and I am starting to get tired of the traditional Ubisoft pattern where it's go to this area, clear it out, then you unlock this thing, and then once you've done about 3 of them, you unlock the final boss and you fight the final boss, and that repetitive structure of gameplay, it does tire on me. Story wise it is a great game, but for me I think it just sits in the B category. Still very good, but not as good as it could have been. Then we got Far Cry New Dawn. Why make that? You could have spent the development time making a new game. I know that they just reused the map from 5, which helped cut costs and time, but yeah, just not that great in my opinion. Bit of a letdown. They've just been going down and down and down ever since Far Cry 3, in my opinion. Okay, right, we've got everything properly sorted now, hopefully. I've gone through all the games that I haven't played, I've put Modern Warfare 2 up in the GOAT category for me because in my opinion it's one of the best FPSs of all time. Borderlands has gone into C, and Borderlands, the pre-sequel, has gone into hasn't played because in my opinion... Whoa! Okay guys, so if you're wondering why all of a sudden everything looks really different, I've just gone through it and got rid of all the games that I haven't played and sorted it all out because this tier list was getting huge. It wasn't really looking very good. I hope that you can all see everything okay. But yeah, without further ado, we'll carry on. Borderlands, a game for me that was good, hasn't aged very well. Yeah, slightly disappointing. We've then got Destiny and Destiny 2. Now let me go behind my reasoning for this. Destiny is a great base. It feels like Halo mixed with a bit of COD. I remember when this game was getting hyped, it was like from the creators of COD and Halo, and at the time everyone was so hyped for it. It's like Halo and COD, Bungie and Activision, like match made in heaven. Surely this game's going to be great. So the shooting part and the gameplay part was good, but the story disappointed. The amount of variety of content was poor. Just overall really underwhelming. And then as for Destiny 2, it could have been great. It really could have. If all the DLC from Destiny 2 was just part of the base game, honestly, it could have been an 8 or a 9 for me. It would have been up in the A tier. But it just wasn't that good. I got the first 2 DLCs for free, and if I had paid the 20, 30, 40 quid that they had asked for it, I would have been majorly disappointed because I completed them in about 4 hours for both of them. I still think if they're able to release a third one now that they're free of Activision, Bungie truly could make a great game. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I have hope, and I hope they will, but I just don't think it will. Next up, Payday 2. A pretty good game in my opinion. Where's Payday 3? I really wish that you would release a Payday 3 because in my opinion Payday 2 is really good. It strangely has a bit of a Left 4 Dead feel to it. I'm not sure how to explain it. It's like Left 4 Dead, but instead of killing zombies you're robbing banks. That's the best way I can describe it, and I really love it for that, to be honest. We also have Deus Ex Mankind Divided. A game in my opinion that was disappointing. I've put Human Revolution up in the A category. And for me, Mankind Divided could have been great, but there was just something odd about it. I think they left it too long, and all the gameplay features that were great back when Human Revolution came out felt outdated. They felt like they were from the 360 generation, not PS4 and Xbox One, and yeah, compared to games that came out at a similar sort of time like The Witcher 3, it just felt like it was missing that spark. Next up we have Portal, a game that was great but got eclipsed by Portal 2, which I think is a top tier. I don't really think it's FPSs as much as it is just first person game, because Portal is definitely not a shooter, but as far as puzzle games go, it's one of the best. Co-op, I really love co-op games, and I really wish that we would get more just 2-player co-op games. There was the Prison one that came out, and I can't remember the name of it, that EA made, if I'm not mistaken, and that was really fun. So if game companies, if you could create more games where they're co-op, 2-player, and just give us a free key that we can give to a friend so we can play it, or split screen local co-op, that would be really good, because Portal 2 is a classic because of that. Now, speaking of co-op games, we have the prequel to one of the best of all time, Left 4 Dead. not quite as good as the games that came after. Left 4 Dead is a truly just fun game, and that's the best way I can describe it. I think that's why it goes into the B category for me. In terms of actual gameplay and content, it's not that great, but the way they executed the co-op and the situations you would get yourself into with your friends is the reason why it truly is one of the better FPS games on this list. As for its sequel, I can't quite put it into S tier because I haven't played it enough, but it is one of the best FPSs of the past 15-20 years, if you can call it one of those. The co-op is truly the selling factor, and it's why the game is so fun. But we will go from one of the best to one of the worst ever. Duke Nukem Forever. Honestly, how this game got released, I do not know. It is truly, it's just a pile of crap. That's the best way that I can describe it. I can't say much more apart from that. And we'll go from bad to just mediocre. Modern Warfare 3, a game that everyone was so excited for, but it just felt a bit underwhelming in the grand scheme of things. I don't know how they managed to go from such a great game in Modern Warfare and a classic in Modern Warfare 2 to just such an average finale. And I think that's the thing that's most just upsetting. It was the last Modern Warfare and it was the worst, and if they could have bowed out on a high note, it could have been another one in the GOAT tier. But we have arguably a GOAT game here. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Now, I know what you're thinking, Rainbow Six Siege? Is that really that high up? Yes. When it first came out, honestly, it was probably a B tier game, but over the years, the amount of content and support that the game has had truly has propelled it to one of the best FPSs of the past 2 decades. Right, for your guys' sake, I've had to readjust the list again. There's just so many games that it's hard to keep it all in an easily visible list. As you can see, all the games that I haven't played have gone off the screen now, but they're there for a reason. Next up, we have Star Wars Battlefront, which was a game that was good at the time but hasn't aged that well. But its sequel, Battlefront 2, it's not really an FPS, but it truly is a classic game, a GOAT. It's probably nostalgia that's making me put it that high up on the list. I played it all the time on my PSP, but Galactic Conquest was just so much fun I couldn't stop myself playing it. And yeah, as a kid who didn't like Star Wars, there's a reason why it's so nostalgic. Everyone loves Star Wars, everyone. And in my opinion, one of the best games, not just one of the best FPS games of all time. Now, we have Metro 2033. It says Redux on here, but it's just Metro 2033. Actually, I'm going to put it in C. A great game, hasn't aged well, but a game that is truly great and has aged pretty well because it's only about a year or 2 old. Metro Exodus, really fun, atmospheric, realistic, not quite as realistic as 2033 or Last Light, but I think they've taken the game in the correct direction. Sort of mainstreamed the series a bit, but I think it's going to keep it going for longer, so anything to release more of them, I'll happily allow. Now we have, in my opinion, our second GOAT of the tier list, and surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, it's another Call of Duty. And Black Ops, in my opinion, is one of the best. I don't know what it is, just that era, the Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops, and Modern Warfare, those 3 games. Oh, World at War was the only one in that 4-game cycle that wasn't that great, but those 3, in my opinion, some of the best shooters of all time. The campaign, better than Modern Warfare 2's. The multiplayer slightly worse, but The improvement of zombies. Mwah. I loved it. Thank you for zombies. Nazi zombies. No, now it's just zombies. The opening sequence when you're strapped into the chair. I don't know what happened there. Truly great though, in my opinion. Right, now we have a game that's just rather bad. Bulletstorm. I don't know, I just didn't really like it. A lot of people sort of liked it. I didn't like it at all. But going from one game that was pretty bad to one game that in 5 or 10 years probably could be a go. Super hot. I'm not sure what happened, but everyone on YouTube for a year just was obsessed with Super Hot. PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye. It was just a truly fun game, and especially in VR. Yeah, I think Super Hot itself as a game isn't that great, but in VR, definitely up there for me. And speaking of games that are up there, Fallout New Vegas is another game that is right up there. Just so many choices and story defining options and decisions to make made this game truly great. It really was fun. It was the first Fallout that I ever played, and I was just blown away by how good it is, and I'm surprised that they haven't been able to top it. And Obsidian, I love you. The Outer Worlds was also a truly great game. I don't think it features on this tier list, but if the Outer Worlds was here, it would easily be an A for me. Fallout New Vegas is another one of those games that just ever so narrowly misses out on the GOAT, purely because it isn't really an FPS, it's more of an RPG. But on the complete other end of the spectrum, Fallout 76 is a pile of crap. I played it once, so I can't put it in the never played tier, but it truly is awful. Do not touch it, even if it goes free to play. It might already be. I do not know. I do not care. It's awful. Do not touch it. They have that like 80 quid a year subscription. If you pay that, honestly, if you pay that, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Sorry, little rant. It's a pile of crap. Do not play it. It's like FIFA. That's why I'm trying to stop playing it. It just steals your money. Stop. Okay guys, don't worry. The end is almost in sight. Well, it's not really, but we're getting there. We're definitely over halfway, so it's okay. If you need a toilet break, go and get your bowl of cereal, go and have a wee. And I'm going to give you 10 seconds to subscribe. Oh, I can't speak. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to subscribe, okay? If you don't subscribe, you can't watch the next part of the video, so... Have you done it? Okay, right. Let's carry on. Thank you for subscribing, I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. We're on our way to 1,000. We're on our way to full-time tier list video. No, I'm joking. These tier list videos are just a bit of a side thing to do in between the bigger projects that I'm working on. So, next up we've got Hitman 3, well, it's one of the best games of all time. That'll be out in the next couple of days, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, shameless plug. Over, we've got our final Fallout game of the tier list. Fallout 4, the game that brought me back to the series. Compared to New Vegas, it was a bit disappointing. If New Vegas had the same body coat as 4, I would play it all the time, honestly. But it's just a bit disappointing. I completed it very quick. I had no desire to do any of the side content. I'm playing through Cyberpunk at the minute, and even though Cyberpunk isn't that good, I want to do all the side content before I finish the main story. With Fallout 4, I just rushed myself through the main story because, honestly, it was a bit lackluster. It's like, oh, my kid's stolen, oh no, oh, I've got to go save my kid, I guess. God, I care so much about this kid that I saw for like 2 seconds, oh no. Like, I don't care. Anyway, another ramble over. We have the Halo series, all of them in a row, up next. So we'll go Halo Combat Evolved. Great game, but nowadays it's just a C. Halo 2, I played, and honestly, I didn't see what the fuss was about. I played the remake and the Master Chief Collection, and it wasn't really for me. I'm gonna get flack for that as well. Halo 3, a B. Halo Reach, S. Halo 4, I want to put it S. I really like it, but for me, probably an A. And then finally Halo 5. I think it deserves to go in D. I was so disappointed by that game. I liked Halo 4 and 343's original take, but Halo 5 was shocking. Honestly, I completed it in a day. I bought an Xbox One with it, completed it in a day. I was so disappointed. Like, what the fuck? But all in all, 4 and Reach are my two favourites. Reach's campaign and multiplayer, iconic. The score was amazing. In my opinion, Halo Reach has a more iconic score than the other Halos. It was truly great. Now, another game that in COD is definitely a GOAT, but in terms of all FPSs ever, I think Black Ops 2 is an S. It truly is a great game. Now, having looked at this, I think I have to drop Super Hard down to an A. All those other games I think deserve to be up there, but Super Hard definitely, as good as it was, it's not S tier. It's a great game, but not S tier. I was going to do some changes at the end, but I just saw that and definitely had to change it. Now, next up we have the original Mirror's Edge, which as short as it was, is an A for me. I was going to do a video on it because I just completed Mirror's Edge Catalyst, which for me at best is a B, but it could be put down as a C, to be honest. The original Mirror's Edge was a game that I didn't even own until about 4 years ago, but on the Xbox 360 I played that demo 50 times, 100 times, I kid you not. The demo where you're running on the rooftops and then at the end you like jump and swing on the helicopter. Like, as a kid I thought that was so cool. Bought the game, played it, it was like 5 hours, but I still loved it. Whereas Catalyst, which was somehow longer, more fleshed out, with a higher production value. What else? More like animation and things to do, was somehow worse. I don't know, it just wasn't that good. In my opinion, it was okay. The story was generic. I could see where it was going. I played the story without any headphones on. I put subtitles on, was like, I don't care. I was just watching YouTube whilst I was playing the game. There was a lot of back and forth, whereas Mirror's Edge being more linear actually helped it more. And I think and I don't think they will, but I think if they make a sequel to Catalyst, maybe they should go to a more linear, not fully linear, but a more linear route. Now, we have a game that I haven't played much, but it left an impact on me. Not a great one, but it was just like a intrigued impact as to what they could do with it. Planetside 2. Now, it's a game where there were these huge like 100v100 player battles. And the game itself wasn't that great, but just the concept of that many people fighting each other really did intrigue me. And there have been rumours about Planetside 3 for years now. I was originally introduced to it by watching Angry Joe play it, but yeah, it's a strange one. If they release Planetside 3, I would definitely keep your eye out on it, because it could be a game that truly does take the world by storm, especially with the likes of Battlefield 6, where we could reportedly be getting 128v 128 player battles, which would be very cool. Going from that to generic 6v6 free lane shooters, we have Black Ops 3, a game that in my opinion just disappointed. Apart from zombies, the zombies is truly GOAT tier. If I was just ranking it on zombies, it would be all the way at the top. But in my opinion, it was a below par game, especially in comparison to Black Ops 1 and 2, which in my opinion, are some of the best shooters ever made. Next up, we have Fear 3, another game that it didn't really leave an impact on me, to be honest. Speaking of games that also didn't really leave an impact, Dishonored 2 and Dishonored 1. I preferred the first to the sequel, but neither of them really blew me away. I also wouldn't call them first person shooters, but yeah. Armour 2, another game that a lot of people like for all the mods, but also didn't really blow me away. Another game that didn't blow me away. It was Black Ops 4, it was a run-of-the-mill, paint-by-numbers sort of game. Same with the original Call of Duty. Look at how we're just storming through these now because I have nothing to say about them. Killing Floor 2 is the exact same. Now we've lost that, so give me a sec because I'm going to have to resort the list out again. Okay, I hope you can all see that well. But yeah, then we have Duke Nukem 3D, which is C. It didn't really leave an impact on me. Prey, I haven't even played, so that'll go down there. Metro Last Light. Ooh, I think that goes in B category. It's a good game, not as good as Exodus for me. Fallout 3. Is it better than Fallout 4? No, in my opinion, Fallout 3 is an A. Good game, just not that great. Then we have Armour 3, which is a game I spent like 40 quid on and rarely ever played. I bought it to play mods with my friends, but rarely ever played it. So for me, ooh, yeah, C, run of the mill. Resistance 3, also a C. Team Fortress 2 is a B, a game that's good, but I rarely ever played. Battlefield 2142, a C. Far Cry 2, a C. I love getting what disease was it in Far Cry 2 that you got? Oh, I can't remember. Malaria. I love getting malaria in Far Cry 2. That was fun. What an odd game. It was so real. It was sort of, to an extent, like the Metro games where it was so realistic to the point where it hurt them, and then when it started to go less realistic, the games actually got better. Borderlands 2 is a good game in my opinion, it's a B. Killing Floor, yeah, it's a C. Ooh. This is a decision I have to make. I think Modern Warfare is the third and final GOAT in my opinion, purely because how these three shooters shaped the way all FPSs are nowadays. Without Modern Warfare, I think Modern Warfare has to go to the top, purely because without Modern Warfare, we wouldn't have the majority of these games down here at all. Especially the likes of Titanfall, which was made by the creators of Modern Warfare. Yeah, I could ramble about it for 5 minutes. I've already said everything I need to say about it in my COD tier list, and everyone, including you, probably already know what the game's like, so I'm not going to go too in depth on it. Right, next up we have Csgo again for some reason, so I'm going to ignore that. Apex Legends, oh my god, I forgot this game existed. Tell you what, at launch it was up here for me. Me and my mates won like 4 games in a row and I loved it. Is it better than these? Yeah, I think it's an A for me. It's a good game, but it's lost a lot of steam and has died because of Warzone pretty much. Definitely better than Fortnite, I can tell you that much for free. Borderlands 3 is a game I for some reason pre-ordered and I'm still not even halfway through, so for me, C, run of the mill. It's probably a really good game, I heard really good things about it, but compared to Jack, the new villains just aren't that good. Then we have only 4 games left now, and one of these games is a contender for GOAT in my opinion. We have Prey, average. Star Wars Battlefront, bad. Battlefront 2, can I put it up there? No, it's an A, very close to S, purely because of all the expansions, but the base game at launch was so bad that I don't think I could put it up in the S category. And then finally, I don't know where to put this. We have Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I'm deliberating between these two. Is it better than Titanfall 2? Right, let's work our way through. Better than Black Ops 2? Yes. Better than Halo Reach? Yes. Better than Fallout? Yes. 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 Yeah, it's better than all of those, so I think I have to put it in the GOAT category. Yeah, it's there. And that, my guys, that is 144 of the best FPS games ever ranked in a tier list. That's a lot of games, I must admit. My throat, as always, for some reason whenever I record these videos, my throat just decides to die. But having looked at all of these, I'm wondering if there are any games that should be moved up or down that I've just gone terribly wrong with. And in my opinion, I think that it's all about correct. The only things I would potentially maybe do with this is put Black Ops up there, maybe Titanfall up there. It's funny how all my top games are just COD. I'm not a COD fanboy, I don't particularly love or hate COD anymore, but I would say those 4 definitely deserve to be GOATs. They've shaped their eras respectively, so I think they deserve to be up there. Anyway guys, that is my 144 top FPS games of all time ranked in a tier list. Let me know down below, what are your favourite FPS games ever made? If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified every single time that I go live or upload a brand new video. If you liked or disliked the video, hit the buttons down below. And yeah, that's it for me. As I said before, there'll be a video on Hitman 3 up very, very soon, if not already. So if you haven't, make sure to go and check that, or the video that's being suggested right now out. I've been Dr. Kid1, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.